Welcome to episode 92 of the Sports Geek podcast. This week I catch up with Treseder from Lords Cricket and the MCC in the lead up to the Ashes series.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals.
And now, here's your host, Sean Callanan.
Thank you very much, DJ Joel. That's right, my name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and you're listening to the Sports Geek podcast, either on iTunes, SoundCloud, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and every other podcasting platform. If I am not on your preferred podcasting platform, please send me a tweet at Sean Callanan or send me an email, Sean, S-E-A-N, as I tell other Seans. It's the way it is spelt. It is the correct way to spell Sean. SEAN at sportsgeekhq.com will always get me via email. On today's episode, I go back to London, back to Lords, and catch up with Treseder, the digital manager at the MCC, working at the Marylebone Cricket Club and Lords Cricket Ground, the home of cricket, as they do brand it online, to talk to him about how they go about bringing digital to an old, I'm going to say stadium, but you'll figure out why I shouldn't say that when we get into the interview, an old ground like Lords, and how it's changing and how they're going about using digital to both engage fans but then also look at the customer service side of things that we have looked at with other stadiums like Westpac Stadium and the SCG in previous podcast chats. So it was good to catch up with Ian when I was there at Seat London, and then to follow up with this chat. The Ashes series, which a few of you who did attend Seat in London found out a little bit more about cricket, but it is the big test series, and it's going to be held in England this summer in the Western Hemisphere. The English currently hold on to the Ashes, the little urn, and Ian does talk about a campaign they've just recently released, small but special. So it is pretty much the focus of the Australian and English cricket fans, sports fans, over the next couple of months. 5 tests will be taking place, each one over 5 days. And we'll see who becomes the victor and who will take home that urn, or at least say that they won the Ashes. The urn lives and remains at Lords Cricket Ground. I'll put a picture in the show notes. Lucky enough to get a bit of a tour of the Lords Museum and take a picture of the tiny little trophy that it is. It dwarfed in comparison to, say, the NHL's Lord Stanley Cup. After that, we'll catch up. But here is my chat with Treseder from the MCC and Lords Cricket Ground. Very happy to welcome Treseder, Digital Manager from the MCC and Lords Cricket Ground, to the Sports Geek podcast. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And I'm hoping that it's a sunny day there at the Lords Cricket Ground because it is pretty damn cold down here in Melbourne.
It doesn't often happen this way, but it's absolutely gorgeous here today. The cracking of flags, as they say over here, and I can see the ground's been working away in shorts and t-shirts. Beautiful.
Oh, well, I'm very jealous. It was very good to meet you and host Seat at London, the home of cricket as it is known. And, it was great to take in some of the history. Do you want to explain to the Sports Geek podcast audience, what your role is and some of the key things you're looking to do as digital manager for the MCC?
Sure. So my role is digital manager for Marylebone Cricket Club and Lords Cricket Ground. And the main objective for my role is to improve the digital output for MCC. When I joined 3.5 years ago, there'd been little investment in digital for about 10 years, and so there was a lot of work to do to bring us, I wouldn't say completely up to date just yet, but we're getting there. So we have gone through a complete sort of strategy piece, worked out exactly the best way to do things and apply ourselves. It's interesting beast, as all sports venues are. You've got different departments in different places, and they've all got different needs and requirements of digital. So we firstly went about a full redevelopment of the main website, laws.org. Brought a few other sort of disparate websites together and under that umbrella. Created a fixture manager website for the MCC playing members. So there's about 2,000 playing members. We're the most active cricket club in the world, playing about 530 fixtures a year. So that website allows them to manage those fixtures. And social media is another of my key objectives. We've done a huge amount of work growing our presence there. Primarily Twitter and Facebook due to sort of resource constraints, but we are now getting much more involved in Instagram, and YouTube has been a huge focus for the last 12 to 18 months, where we've signed a contract with a TV production company over here, Sunset and Vine, who have got a long history in sport and cricket. They were the broadcaster that took on cricket in the late 90s and kind of really changed the way that cricket was broadcast, and the way that the different numbers they brought in, the different stats and graphs and all kinds of different approaches to the game. So we've completely redeveloped our YouTube channel and output, and are now producing appointment to view content every week, 3 to 4 pieces. So content is one of my main responsibilities, and engaging with fans and reaching as many fans as possible around the globe.
It is something of a challenge, so we've worked with sports teams and leagues, but when you're talking about stadiums, and we've worked with stadiums like ANZ Stadium and the SCG up in Sydney, and through its redevelopment and technology, it's a balance to get that mix right of how much content should a stadium be producing, how much fan engagement work should it be doing compared to the tenants, and in your case the ECB, the English cricket team coming in, and how much the stadium should be there to do that, but then also the customer service side of things. How do you sort of manage that balance at Lords?
Yeah, well, the first thing to say is that I would be reprimanded by the MCC powers that big cheeses if I was to say stadium. So this is a cricket ground, and we're very much keen on keeping it as a ground. Each of the as we redevelop the ground over the next sort of 20 years, each stand will be redeveloped on its own in order to kind of make sure that we don't go down that stadium route. So that's the first thing, tongue in cheek, obviously. But
so in terms of the customer engagement, balancing the customer engagement. So now that you've got social media and Wi-Fi capability is starting to get rolled out, and now fans can simply just tweet, I can't get to get a drink, or there's someone annoying me, or I can't see, I've got a restricted view, whereas previously that they didn't have that channel. So it's something that all stadiums or cricket grounds have to deal with it. How do you guys deal with it?
Well, it's a huge shift that we've seen in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, and how people are reporting complaints as well as praise, but human nature says that most people will complain as opposed to praise. So we now, during a major match, like the recent Test match against England versus New Zealand that was held here about 10 days ago, we now have a team of social people on social media looking out for those instances, so that we can deal with that as soon as possible. Whether it is, like you say, a restricted view, we can then talk to the ticket office, see if there's a way of helping that person to not have a post in front of their view. And whether it's someone who's sat next to a spectator who's had maybe one too many beers by the end of the afternoon, and we can then talk to the stewards about that situation. And it really has changed a lot, but it also means that from the way that we're structured on a major match day, we really need to think about it's more of a customer service operation as opposed to a sort of fan engagement piece. So as the digital team, and there's only a few of us on Twitter, I think in the 5 days of the test match, we sent out something in the region of 1,500 tweets, and the majority of those were replies to people in bowl, and making their experience much better. But it's something that I'm sure the stadiums and grounds around the world are grappling with, but it's very interesting to see how that's changed.
Yeah, well, you should. One person you could talk to or listen to, I spoke to Shane Harmon from Westpac Stadium over in New Zealand, and he's a really big advocate of having a social presence, or at least someone in the social team working out of the control room on game day, because control room, for the people who don't know, is where all the requests come in, whether there's a malfunction at a gate or a problem with the scoreboard or a traffic issue. Having someone that has access to the social channels, or at least improving your process so that they can report. And I've been in that role working with the SCG, being able to send a message to the control room to say there's a problem with that toilet block, but then also to respond to those fans or tell that area that there's a problem. It's really vital in getting that that customer service and stadium information, because social is a great channel to get that message out really quickly to fans.
Absolutely, and that is something that we will be looking at. Currently, we kind of go through our radio system to make sure that we're getting that information. But to have someone actually sat in the control room right there would be a fantastic way to go.
I want to touch back on what you were talking about, the TV, and I think it is really unique that the work that you've done on YouTube, getting a TV production crew, but then also the stuff that you've done with GoPros. Every time I check out the Lord's cricket on YouTube, you're strapping a GoPro on another batsman or a bowler or an umpire.
We are thinking now that we've maybe GoPro'd to death, so we're wondering what else is there.
But I mean, if you showed it at Seat, Adam Gilchrist hitting a few sixes and Sachin Tendulkar walking through the Lord's long room to sort of give that point of view for fans. How have the fans responded to that? Because like I said, it is very unique for a venue to be producing that kind of content. That's sort of the content that people come to expect from a league or a team.
That's the strange thing about Lord's Cricket Ground, and but we're also the home of cricket, and we're also MCC, who have got a huge history in the game, obviously, and used to be a governing board until sort of 40, 50 years ago. So although we don't have a team, we're in a privileged position to be the home of cricket. We've got the cricket glitterati, if you will, coming through our doors on a regular basis, which gives us access to these people and these legends of the game like no one else. And so it would, that is a huge opportunity for digital to leverage. So that is a big thing that we've looked at with our video content, is talking to these legends, whether it be for our Honours Board series. So anyone who's got on the Honours Board, we look to interview, so that eventually we want to create a digital Honours Board, and every single entry, well, not every single entry, there are obviously some legends that have passed away, unfortunately, but where possible, to have a video where they talk through their achievement. We've got footage of their achievement. So we've got that opportunity. In addition, when it comes to things like the GoPro that you've mentioned there, last year was a huge year for Lords. It was the 200th anniversary of this particular ground. This is the third of the Lords Cricket Grounds. But it was a massive year, so 200 years. We did an event in early July, which was MCC versus rest of the world. And that was one opportunity where we did have a team full of cricketing legends, all got huge digital footprints. So we went all out to do what we could with those legends. We worked with Alex Trickett over here, head of sport at Twitter, to bring in a Twitter mirror so that we could do as much as possible for the 3 days around the match when the legends were here. We talked to Adam Gilchrist about how he would feel about wearing a helmet. He was with a GoPro camera on. He was very happy to do so. We worked with Sky TV here, the broadcaster, to ensure that was all above board and happy. They were happy. We kind of shared some footage with them, but it just allowed us to do what we would love to do if we had a team for that one event. And also because it was slightly different, it was a exhibition match. It wasn't a test match. We didn't have to worry about ICC. We could basically do what we want as long as the players and the broadcasters were happy. So that's where things like the GoPro with Adam Gilchrist came to fruition, which was fantastic. It's the first time that in a game of that kind of magnitude you were able to see exactly what it's like to face Sean Tate bowling 90 miles an hour. And I think the most insightful thing was the communication of the batsman in the middle. And it feels like any game that I've played, you expect from looking at international sport, you expect something quite, maybe even more kind of professional in the way that they talk to each other. But it's just, obviously it was an exhibition game and they were just mates having a game, but it just looked like cricket being played anywhere in the way that they were communicating, which I think was a fantastic insight for people, hence its success on YouTube. And obviously the other big thing that we wanted to tap into was obviously the huge amount of fans that we've got over in the subcontinent, and with Sachin Tendulkar being here, the biggest cricketing celebrity in the world, then we had an opportunity there as well. And so with it being his final innings at Lord's, his final kind of innings at that level, we followed him out from the dressing room through the long room, which took a lot of sign-off internally in order to be able to do that, because there's usually no filming in the long room. We have various ding-dongs in order to get things like that signed off, but we were able to do that. And it's proved to be extremely successful in terms of our engagement and reach. We've had over 1 million views on YouTube for that film. So it was great. It was a great event, and something kind of makes us think sometimes, I wish we had a team that we could follow sometimes, but we very much work on the history and heritage side of things, and that's where we kind of use that, the celebrity and the digital footprint that these people have in order to raise our game.
And it is very much a case of you've got to seek and seize the opportunities that are there. So, there are always TV restrictions. You can't do everything with video. So when you do have these one-off games or opportunities, that's when you want to go all out. Push all the chips in, if I use a poker analogy, and really go for it on those kind of opportunities. And for the people who are listening in Australia, Sachin Tendulkar, you're right, he's known as a god in India from a cricketing point of view. Effectively take LeBron James and times it by 10 would tell you the magnitude of Sachin Tendulkar in India.
I've never seen anything like it. The fans here outside the pavilion when he was here, just chanting his name. He is like a god. It was unbelievable. So
a couple of other things. There is a vast history. You said 200 years. It's a third version of the ground. With fires and things like that. What have you got planned, going forward? You've got an Ashes series coming up. What are you looking to do?
Yeah, so the Ashes is an interesting one for us as well. So obviously we have an Ashes test here, but we are connected to the Ashes in the fact that the Ashes trophy, although it's not called a trophy, the Ashes urn.
The urn, yes.
The Ashes urn is positioned here in the MCC Museum and never leaves, much to the Australians.
As much as we might like to win it, it has to stay there, is pretty much what Ian is saying. And comparing the from a historical point of view, I see the Ashes urn very close to from the Stanley Cup in ice hockey as a revered trophy. It's not a new trophy that can be covered in champagne. It is very much revered and stays at the MCC. I was lucky enough to see it when we were there for seat.
Yeah, it's extremely delicate and therefore it can't be moved. But this gives us an opportunity. That link between MCC and the Ashes urn because usually the roadshow turns up for the test match. We have obviously a fantastic week or so with 5 days of the test match in the middle, where we're able to do some great content, get as much stuff out there with the players as we can, obviously feature the game, and that's great. But that's just for a week, and it's an Ashes series which is over a couple of months. It's 5 test matches. So we really sat down earlier this year to kind of look at how can we ensure that we're relevant throughout the whole series, and that's where we've come up with a campaign, hashtag small but special, which is all about the Ashes urn. So the Ashes urn only stands maybe 3 or 4 inches high, and is small but extremely special, hence hashtag small but special. And so this campaign will tell the story of the Ashes urn to a global audience, hopefully, but also attract visitors to the MCC Museum here, people that are visiting London to come on a tour of the ground, and also to be able to see the urn. And we'll highlight our ownership of it, and also the club's role in the history of the game as a whole. And how are we going to do that? We're going to put together celebrity endorsements. So we've already interviewed quite a few celebrities as part of an Ashes Rewind feature, which is where they will watch an old Ashes test match that means something to them and then talk about it, whether they were playing in it, whether they were just watching. We actually even brought Stephen Fry to tears watching Andrew Flintoff in 2009, which is great TV. So do watch out for that.
As an Australian, I look forward to it. Obviously, seeing the English tear apart the Australian team, but I will be checking it out.
So, in addition to that, we've got a full sort of social media campaign with Small But Special. We've got top 10 moments in the 21st century Ashes series history, and again we'll be asking the public to vote for their best moments, etc. So we're hoping that this will give us the opportunity to really follow the series through for the entire 2 months, and also get people interested and aware of Lord's and MCC's role.
And I guess the other thing that I wanted to touch on is because a lot of history around the MCC and the laws of the game and things like that. You've even started to reach out still keeping up the education process of the laws of the game with an app.
That's right. So this is, I think, this is an exclusive for Sports Geek. But we will be doing an MCC Laws of Cricket app. So for your listeners that don't know, the Laws of Cricket is governed by the MCC. We're the custodians of the laws of cricket, from playing on the village green all the way up to test level. The ICC have some additional rules and laws which are on top of that for international cricket. But from playing on the park for your Sunday League team to playing in the test in a test match, that is the MCC Laws of Cricket. And the opportunity there is vast. We can create an app. Golf have done it, obviously. Rugby have done it. Had great success with. And it's the natural thing to do. In terms of MCC's global relevance in the game, the Laws of Cricket is probably the biggest thing. We've got the spirit of cricket as well, which is obviously very important as well. But the laws really is the big thing for MCC globally. And so we are working with an agency at the moment to produce a Laws of Cricket app. We've already done a lot of work with the laws, simplifying them for a younger audience. A lot of the laws are very wordy and have been around maybe for a couple of centuries. And so we've done a series on YouTube of animations narrated by Stephen Fry, and also available in Urdu and Hindi, which make the laws much more accessible to people. We've now got 15 of those that we've produced, which will be part of the app as well. And so we're looking, there's the little blue book that you can buy, which is the MCC Laws of Cricket app. Sorry, Laws of Cricket in a book version, but we're bringing that blue book to digital. So that'll be launching later this year.
Oh, I look forward to it. And I guess one of the things I just wanted to touch on that Derek Brewer raised at SEAT is I guess the changing behaviours of the fans and the members of MCC and the fans who are attending Lords. They're very much, you would think, they're old cricket fans and not savvy from a digital point of view. Were you surprised when you came into the role thinking there's a lot of, again, old fans, and I sometimes call them silver surfers because they are using digital and they are getting savvy with things like iPads and iPhones. Have you been surprised with some of the behaviour of cricket fans? Was it a surprise to you?
Absolutely. I mean, I actually used the term silver surfer in my interview here. And then looked up to see that half the audience were silver-haired, but still managed to secure the position somehow. But yeah, absolutely. We've seen, in terms of if we look at the statistics for our website, iPad usage has grown hugely in the last 3 years. But just look around the ground on a match day. We were the first cricket ground in the world to offer free Wi-Fi. And even the members sat in the posh seats in the pavilion, you will see them on an iPad, sometimes second screening. During a test match, you might see someone watching some football, soccer through their Sky digital account at the same time as watching the cricket. So yeah, it's changing all the time. There are obviously some of the older members who don't really understand or have no interest in getting involved in digital, but that's changing every year. We're seeing more and more of the members who are getting more digitally savvy, and so that is a different audience for us as well, which maybe we didn't have to deal with 2 or 3 years ago in terms of accessibility and how we present our content. We've got to think about the fact that people are living longer, and these people are maybe sort of 65, 70 plus, and how do we present content for them?
But it does give you that wide spectrum because that demographic they would be loving all this history and recaps and interviews with legends of the game that you're doing all the time because they would have seen them playing. So you're catering both to a newer audience and one that's been following cricket for many, many years.
That's the balance. We've got this great history and heritage, which we can tap into, and we're very lucky that we're in that position to be able to do that. But then also reaching new audiences and new fans, and the 14-year-old kid who loves Sachin Tendulkar playing in Mumbai. How is Lord's cricket ground and MCC relevant to them? And so that's where the stuff like the GoPro footage. And the more fun stuff, we're doing a catching challenge this year, where all the teams that visit here, we're getting a few of the players to do a catching challenge on YouTube. So how many cricket balls can they hold, basically? Which again, is something fun and it's great, and they can access it on your phone. You mentioned we've moved a lot of our video content onto Facebook. The strategy there, it's not the history and heritage side of things. It's that fun, engaging stuff that is going to drive new audiences for Lord's Cricket Ground and for MCC.
Well, that's a good place to sign off, and I just wanted to give a quick congratulations. A couple of weeks ago, the home of cricket reached 100,000 followers on Twitter, and you signified it with the hashtag 100k not out, onwards and upwards for the home of cricket Twitter account.
Thanks very much. Yeah, we 100 not out. So we'll hope to reach 200 slightly quicker than we did 100. So
and I did want to allow you to give a shout out to former guest Richard Ayres for making a terrible blunder when he was interviewed, talking about the egg and tomato blazer. You were very quick to correct him on Twitter.
Absolutely. The colours of MCC are red and yellow, and have been described as egg and bacon for many years. So a little bit of egg on Richard's face there.
Yes, exactly. I think it was just a way to get attention. He wants to move up the membership queue there somehow, but I don't think it's going to happen, Richard.
If anything, he's gone the other way. But yeah,
You got to know your stuff. Thank you very much, Ian, and good to have you on the podcast. I look forward to catching up with you when I'm next in London.
Fantastic, Sean. Thank you.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now. Thanks
very much to Ian Treseder from the Lord's Cricket Ground. You can follow him as you can with all the Sports Geek guests on the Twitter. Send him a tweet. Tell him that you've listened to the episode at Treseder, Treseder on Twitter. So thanks again to Ian, and best of luck from a game management point of view, and hope all goes well. Hope it's a very successful test when the Aussies take on the English at Lords. As I said in the interview, I won't wish you too much luck because I do want the Aussies to win the series. Just changing tact a little bit, very serious. I want to have a big shout out and a heartfelt condolences to everyone at the Adelaide Football Club. For those of you in Australia, you'll obviously be aware of the passing and the tragic passing and murder of Adelaide football coach Phil Walsh. I really feel for Dave Burtonshaw, who's running the comms and seeing the grief online via all the social channels, but also everybody who is behind the scenes working at the Crows. I can't imagine what everyone is going through there, but I really do applaud both your resolve and the way everybody at the Adelaide Football Club has handled what I can only imagine be a terribly tough situation. Congratulations, Andrew Fagan, on the way he's handled the club and everybody involved. I wish you all the best, and my condolences to everybody at the Adelaide Football Club. I guess a personal story from my point of view. I didn't actually get to meet Phil Walsh. I was actually at the Adelaide Crows last Wednesday, catching up with Dave and working on a few digital initiatives. But I hadn't been able to catch up with Phil since he started in the role. But my family has a long history following Phil Walsh's career. I actually went to school with his niece way back in grade 4 to grade 8 primary school, and started high school with Susan. And so they actually lived next door to us up in country Victoria, not far from Phil's hometown of Hamilton. So we followed Phil Walsh when he's had his first year at Collingwood, and then on to Richmond, then on to Brisbane, as we were family friends of the Burns. So been following Phil's career for a long time, and as I said, absolutely tragic circumstances. I can't really say anything that can help or help the hurt that I know people who are closer to Phil would be feeling. But what I can only hope that they have been, I guess, uplifted by the response of the football community. The hashtag WeFlyAsOne, which is the Crows hashtag, could not be more appropriate. The solidarity of the football community, Alistair Clarkson and Nathan Buckley, coaches of Hawthorn and Collingwood, getting all the players to bow their heads in a circle after the game, and that followed suit for the rest of the games for the AFL season. And then I was really heartened to see the amount of Adelaide Crows fans that turned up at Adelaide Oval for a game. Since the game was cancelled, they turned up to pay their respects to Phil Walsh when the game was supposed to be on, and to kick the footy. I think it's one of the things that very lucky to be working in sport and seeing the power of both clubs and sports overall really rally around a really tragic circumstance. So, as I said earlier, a terrific job to Dave and Andrew and all the people at the Adelaide Crows. Do your best. I know this week coming up and this next game is going to be exceptionally tough in Perth, but you've got some really good friends there who at the West Coast Eagles, where Phil was a former coach as well. So you'll be definitely surrounded by a lot of people who love you. For those of you who are in the United States, you may have seen posts about Phil Walsh in either on the Sports Geek page or even most likely in the news. Yeah, absolutely tragedy, and thank you for all those who are in the US that did pass on their condolences as well. Very appreciated. So I want to end this podcast on a somber note, but Vale, Phil Walsh. Actually, I think the best way that I can finish this podcast is with some audio that Dave Burtonshaw captured at Adelaide Oval for the moment's silence, with 20,000 people at a football ground with no game to be played.